Hi everyone, hope all is good with you. Something quite funny I need to tell you. It is quite interesting how Jabba and unrepentant pedo Josh think Matthew 7 somehow goes against free grace theology when the passage is not even about theological systems in the first place. Christ was not speaking against believers. Christ was warning believers about false prophets and deceptive teachers. He was not giving Christians a weapon to endlessly police one another's salvation. He was warning his sheep about wolves among them. Let's read what Christ actually said. Matthew 7 verse 15, beware of false prophets, which come to you in sheep's clothing, but inwardly they are ravening wolves. Right from the beginning, Christ says to beware of false prophets. He was not talking about born-again believers here. He was warning the sheep about false ones who come pretending to belong among them. Wolves dressed like sheep, deceptive teachers who outwardly appear religious, charismatic, and knowledgeable, but inwardly are corrupt. The warning is about identifying such men, not about creating a theology of constant salvation inspection among believers. Again, Christ was warning against false prophets, and these false ones were never saved in the first place. Matthew 7 verse 16, ye shall know them by their fruits. Do men gather grapes of thorns, or figs of thistles? The fruit is the evidence by which false teachers are recognized. Their doctrine, conduct, spirit, influence, hypocrisy, manipulation, pride, lies, false accusations, malice, and corruption eventually reveal what they truly are. Christ is not teaching that believers maintain salvation by producing enough visible fruit to satisfy religious inspectors. He is teaching believers how to recognize false ones. Matthew 7 verse 17, even so every good tree bringeth forth good fruit, but a corrupt tree bringeth forth evil fruit. A corrupt teacher produces corrupt results. False doctrine, slander, division, confusion, pride, railing, false accusations, lies, manipulation, and spiritual abuse are fruits too. Christ is speaking about identifying false men by what proceeds from them, not establishing a salvation checklist for believers. Matthew 7 verse 18, a good tree cannot bring forth evil fruit, neither can a corrupt tree bring forth good fruit. Christ is speaking in the context of nature. A false prophet cannot continually produce truly godly fruit from a corrupt inward nature because he is not a child of God to begin with. He may imitate sheep's clothing outwardly, but eventually the wolf nature manifests itself. Again, Christ is warning believers about false ones, not condemning believers themselves. Matthew 7 verse 19, every tree that bringeth not forth good fruit is hewn down and cast into the fire. This is judgment against corrupt trees and false prophets, not a threat that born-again believers lose salvation whenever their fruit is imperfect. Paul already taught that a believer's works can burn while the believer himself remains saved. 1 Corinthians 3 verse 15, if any man's work shall be burned, he shall suffer loss, but he himself shall be saved, yet so as by fire. That alone destroys the shallow formula of bad fruit equals unsaved. Matthew 7 verse 20, wherefore by their fruits ye shall know them. Again, Christ repeats the point. This is discernment against wolves pretending to be sheep. Christ gave his people a way to recognize false ones. Ironically, men who constantly produce rage, slander, humiliation tactics, false accusations, obsession, mockery, confusion, and endless public warfare should be very careful appealing to Matthew 7. Matthew 7 verse 21, not every one that saith unto me, Lord, Lord, shall enter into the kingdom of heaven, but he that doeth the will of my Father which is in heaven. And what is the will of the Father concerning salvation? John 6 verse 40, and this is the will of him that sent me, that every one which seeth the Son and believeth on him may have everlasting life, and I will raise him up at the last day. There it is. The will of the Father is to believe on the Son, not mere lip service, not empty repetition. People twist this into performance theology because they refuse to let Scripture interpret Scripture. Matthew 7 verse 22, many will say to me in that day, Lord, Lord, have we not prophesied in thy name, and in thy name have cast out devils, and in thy name done many wonderful works? Notice what these people appeal to: their works, their ministry, their spiritual activity, their public performance. They do not say, Lord, I trusted in thy blood. They say, look what we did. That is the spirit of works-based assurance. Matthew 7 verse 23, and then will I profess unto them, I never knew you. Depart from me, ye that work iniquity. Christ does not say, I knew you, then lost you. He says, I never knew you. These were never his. They were religious workers, false prophets, performers, and miracle claimers who trusted in their religious activity rather than truly knowing Christ. So no, Matthew 7 is not some anti-free grace passage. It is Christ's warning to believers about false prophets, wolves in sheep's clothing, corrupt trees, and religious workers who boast in what they do. The passage exposes false ones pretending to belong among God's people, not believers who understand the difference between justification and sanctification. I just thank God these false ones like Jabba and Josh just expose themselves constantly and daily. I hope you can see and know that too. Thanks for listening, and God bless you and your loved ones.